سخنرانیهای دورین روکماکر نماینده پارلمان اروپا از هلند، آلیونا شکروم نماینده پارلمان اوکراین، سناتور هورکان عضو سنای ایران، روبا هبوش نایب رئیس ائتلاف ملی سوریه.
دورین روکماکر نماینده پارلمان اروپا از هلند. همونطور که مریم رجوی در برنامه 10 ماده‌ای خود بیان می‌کند، مهم این نیست که شما چه اعتقادی دارید یا چه شکلی هستید. مهم این است که شما چه کار می‌کنید.
همه جمع اینجا باید بسیار خوشحال باشند که چنین رهبر خوبی دارند، زیرا رهبران خوب بسیار کمیاب هستند.
افراد زیادی از رژیم ایران بودند که به من مراجعه کردند. آنها بسیار مدرن، بسیار غربی، بسیار مؤدب به نظر می رسیدند و به من می گفتند که خانم رجوی انتخاب درستی نبوده است. اما من تصمیمم را گرفتم و به آن پایبند هستم.
مطمئنم که زمان برای رژیم ایران رو به پایان است و به زودی ناپدید خواهد شد. این یک رژیم فاشیسم مذهبی است. فاشیست‌ها پایدار نیستند. آنها خواهند رفت.
Good day, all of you. My name is Dورین روکماکر and I'm a member of the European Parliament. And I'm really honored to be here today. I'm honored because I was invited by a woman that is the hope for Iran, that is the hope for the Middle East, who is the hope for the world. I think a lot of European politicians, well, in the European Parliament, they have a good heart, like all human beings, or most of them have a good heart. As Meriem Rajafy so good states in her 10-point plan, it's far more important to see each other as a human being instead of a woman, a man, a Muslim, a Christian. It isn't important. It isn't important what you believe or what you look like. It's important what you do. And you, Meriem Rajafy, Mrs. Meriem Rajafy, you are a very good example. And all the people here must be very proud and happy to have such a good leader, because good leaders are very rare. It's not every day that they pass by. It takes courage, it takes understanding and wisdom, and it takes a lot of love. And when we met in the European Parliament, I believe it was on the 30th of May, I decided then and there that I met the true leader of Iran. We live in an age where there is a lot of what they call net news going around. It's sometimes difficult to understand what is truth and what is a lie, especially when you are in politics, probably. But you will be approached by a lot of people who are telling you that they are the true opposition or they are the true leaders. So for me it was in first hand a little bit difficult to understand which opposition in Iran I had to support. I think human rights are very important, and I know they are important for every human being. That's why they're called human rights. But who do you support? That's a very important question. And then I I saw some ladies from the opposition who supported Meriem Rajavi, and they explained to me why it's so important to give them my support. And I will, and I do. Because it took a while. There were a lot of people from the Iranian regime who approached me. They looked very modern, very Western, very polite, and they tried to influence me, talking me into that Mrs. Rajavi was not the right choice to make. But I make a decision and I stick to it. And I hope you all do too. I know this has been a long journey, and I know the resistance is busy for a long, long time, but I'm sure that the regime in Iran has had his last time. It will vanish in thin air. It's a fascist regime. It's a religious fascist regime, but fascists are fascists, and they are not sustainable. They will go away. So keep up the struggle, keep up the fight, and you will succeed. Thank you.
آلیونا شکروم، نماینده پارلمان اوکراین. درست در ماه می 2023 بیش از 300 پهپاد شاهد ساخت رژیم ایران برای کشتن اوکراینی‌ها به اوکراین آمدند. و این همان ماه می است که رژیم ایران بیش از 140 اعدام را طی آن در کشور به اجرا درآورد. این برای من وحشتناک است.
من یک وکیل بین المللی هستم و قویاً اعتقاد دارم که به خاطر جنایاتی که رژیم ایران انجام داده حسابرسی وجود داشته باشد و این حسابرسی باید انجام شود.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, dear friends, thank you so much for having us here. This night, when we were already here in Paris at 2:30 a.m. in the morning, 8 Iranian drones Shahed and hit Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. And they damaged 3 private houses just near where I live in Kyiv and injured 1 man. And this is what we call a very good and calm night, because it was only 8 of them. Ukrainians didn't know much about Iran. I'm so sorry to say that. And we didn't understand why Iranian drones are on top of our houses, big black ones, and are trying to bomb us. We did not understand why. Just in May 2023, more than 300 Shahed Iranian drones came to Ukraine to kill Ukrainians. And this is the same month of May when Iran carried out more than 140 executions in Iran. Just think about it, 140 executions. As I understand, it is the biggest number of death executions carried out by the regime since 2015, and this is horrifying for me. 5 months ago, my parents were staying in their small house near the capital of Ukraine in the rural area, and they have seen a black Iranian drone on top of their heads, and there was nothing I could do, there was nothing they could do, they could only hide. And unfortunately, Ukrainians know too well that this is happening 3,000 kilometers away from Iran because terrorist and dictatorship regime knows no borders and knows no distance and knows no mercy. And they must be stopped by all of us, by all the efforts of all of the international community, because they threaten everybody. Ukrainians know very well that appeasement never works for terrorist and dictatorship regimes. Only weakness, our weakness, provokes more evil and provokes more tyranny and provokes more violence. And unfortunately, a lot of us knows a lot of examples of that. And I speak here, and I'm very honored to do that, on behalf of tens of millions of Ukrainians who stand for free and democratic Iran. And also, I'm allowed to speak on behalf of Ukrainian girls and women who are incredibly inspired by Iranian women in your fight. You are such an inspiration to us. Keep on fighting for freedom. You know, we follow you, we stand with you, and we will do whatever it takes to help you. I am horrified on how our history is so tragically common in this fight for freedom and democracy and basic human rights. Your fight for freedom is on the way, and it is going on for too long. That's why you need to win fast, and you need to win for good, for everybody, for all of us. The last thing I'm going to say is that Ukraine has already introduced sanctions on Iran. But I know that we can do more. We can do more. And I will be coming back to Kiev, to my parliament, with very, very concrete tasks from a lot of you. We will fight for more sanctions because we believe that the population of Iran deserves to live in a free society, in a free democratic country, and there should be sanctions around the regime. I am an international lawyer, and I do believe very strongly that there should be accountability for the crimes being carried out by Iranian regimes. And this accountability should be there. We share common values of freedom, and I know that those values cannot be stopped, they cannot be repressed, they cannot be killed. They are just growing, and they are just attracting more people, and they are growing, you know, in a good sense all over the world. I know that Ukraine will win this war, and I'm sure I know that Iran will win, and democratic Iran will be a prosperous and free country. We stand with you. Thank you. Thank you.
سناتور هورکان، عضو سنای ایرلند. مردم ایران ابزار کانون‌های شورشی و سکوی برنامه 10 ماده شما را خانم رجوی دارند و از یک جایگزین مناسب به نام شورای ملی مقاومت ایران برای رسیدن به موفقیت برخوردارند.
رژیم ایران در ضعیف‌ترین نقطه در تاریخ خود است. آخوندها در چند بحران به ویژه بحران مشروعیت گیر کردند. این امر توسل به سرکوب خونین اعتراضات، توطئه علیه شورای ملی مقاومت و میزان بی‌سابقه اعدام‌ها در این کشور را توضیح می‌دهد.
اتحادیه اروپا باید سپاه را در لیست بگذارد و مقام‌های بیشتری از رژیم ایران را تحریم کند و مهمتر از همه باید گام‌های ملموسی در سطح بین‌المللی از جمله در سازمان ملل بردارد تا به فرهنگ مصونیت از مجازات در ایران پایان بدهد و برای این کار رژیم باید به شورای امنیت سازمان ملل ارجاع شود.
Good afternoon, everybody. Madame Rejui, honourable colleagues and friends, it's a really great honour to join today's distinguished panellists for this very important further discussion on Iran on the third day of the Free Iran World Summit 2023. And since Friday, we have had great discussions and contributions on the current situation in Iran and on its future. And I think everybody here would agree that Iran will be one of the countries we must watch closely in the coming months, given its history and importance for the Middle East and the future progress of not just the region, but indeed the world. The continuing popular push to make Iran more free and democratic is an encouraging step and welcoming development. When, not if, the Iranian people are successful in their endeavours to establish a democratic republic, the world will breathe a sigh of relief and start to think seriously about building friendship and real cooperation for the benefit of Iran, the region and the world. And as many of my colleagues and distinguished speakers have explained both today and indeed since Friday, the people of Iran have the tools in the resistance units, the platform in your plan, Mrs. Rejvi, your 10-point plan, which we've heard so much about, and a viable alternative in the NCRI to succeed. The people of Iran have a very difficult road ahead, as we know, but their courage and determination are bringing the regime to its knees. The regime in Tehran is at its weakest moment in its history. The mullahs are stuck in several crises, particularly a crisis of legitimacy, which they cannot resolve. This explains the bloody crackdown on protests and an unprecedented level of executions in the country. This shows that terror and repression are two of the pillars upon which the regime relies to hold on to power. And indeed, a third pillar is the regime's push to acquire nuclear weapons. We can't be fooled by Tehran's claims and rhetoric. Its nuclear programs is not civilian, and the sanctions are not the reason for Iran's economic woes, because we know the regime does not care about the ordinary Iranian people. If it did, there would be not so many of them in poverty. We know that to crush the popular uprising, the regime prioritises the IRGC and domestic crackdown and ballistic and nuclear advancements instead of using its money to improve the Iranian people's harsh living conditions and alleviate the country's faltering economy. The EU must designate the IRGC. It should add more Iranian names to its sanctions list, and above all, the EU must take concrete steps at the international level, including the UN, to end the culture of impunity in Iran. And to do this, the regime must be referred to the UN Security Council, and we must force the regime to allow UN inspections of the prison system. We must also support the NCRI and the Iranian people as they strive to liberate their country from the mullahs. Just in conclusion, some of the words we've heard at our sessions on Friday and indeed yesterday and today, the words that keep coming up: repression, suppression, poverty, nuclear, the drones, 10-point plan, the funding of international terrorism. And as my own former Prime Minister said last night, we are all being written to by the regime, by the Iranian ambassador, and we are all being told that this is not an organisation we should be involved with. But clearly, to have so many people from so many countries, we had 16 countries at our talks on Friday evening, mostly from various parts of Europe, but also Canada. And we can see today we've got many, many other countries here, a lot of Middle Eastern countries and African countries, and countries like myself, Ukraine, Holland, the Netherlands, and so on. So I want to thank the NCRI and indeed you, Mrs. Rejvi, for all you're doing to let us know, because before I became a Member of Parliament, I have to say I didn't know as much about Iran as I do now, and that's why I'm here. And let's hope that sooner rather than later we can all be in Tehran, in a free and democratic Tehran, visiting that wonderful country and its wonderful people. Thank you very much. Thank you.
باهبوش، نایب رئیس ائتلاف ملی سوریه: رژیم جنایتکار ایران رو به زوال است و امیدوارم که سقوط آن را در تهران جشن بگیریم. در ایرانی تحت حکومتی که به دموکراسی و حقوق بشر و آزادی‌ها احترام می‌گذارد و زمینه صلح و ثبات منطقه را فراهم می‌کند و این همان آرمانی است که شورای ملی مقاومت و خانم مریم رجوی حامل آن هستند.
السلام عليكم. أنقل لكم سلاما من أمهات الشهداء في سوريا حيث قتلهم نظام الأسد بمساعدة نظام الملالي، وأنقل لكم أيضا سلام الثوار والثائرات في بلدي الحبيب المعذب منذ أكثر من 12 عاما. سيداتي وسادتي، سعيدة بوجود هذا المؤتمر والذي يجتمع فيه المطالبين بالحرية والمدافعين عن حق الشعوب بالوصول للديمقراطية. إن خطر نظام الملالي يقع بالدرجة الأولى على الشعب الإيراني الذي عانى وما زال يعاني على كل المستويات، سياسياً، اقتصادياً، اجتماعياً، ثقافياً، وهو تحت وطأة نظام مجرم ينهب ثروات الشعب ويعتقلهم ويقتلهم على مرأى ومسمع من العالم أجمع، الذي يكتفي بالبيانات والعقوبات لكن دون فعل حقيقي لإيقاف هذا النظام المجرم في إيران ليصل الشعب الإيراني للحرية والديمقراطية. وهذا ما يفعله العالم أيضا مع سوريا: الخطابات، البيانات، التضامن مع المعارضة ومع الثورة، لكن دون فعل حقيقي لإيقاف إجرام الأسد وحلفائه في سوريا. طبعا فوق كل الإجرام الذي يقوم به نظام الملالي في إيران، ينشر إجرامه على دول الجوار، فيدعم نظام الأسد الذي قتل وما زال يقتل الشعب في سوريا، ويدعم حزب الله في لبنان، ويدعم الحوثيين في اليمن، ويدعم الميليشيات الطائفية في العراق، والقائمة تطول لتدخل هذا النظام المجرم في دول المنطقة. إن كل منطقة الشرق الأوسط تعاني من المشروع الطائفي التخريبي الذي يعمل نظام الملالي لفرضه على دولنا. وأنا محدثتكم هنا من إدلب، من سوريا الجريحة مرة أخرى، التي قتل منها النظام أكثر من 1,000,000 شهيد، وهجر أكثر من نصف الشعب السوري، واعتقل آلاف النساء والأطفال والشباب. كل هذا جرى بمساعدة نظام الملالي الذي ينشر الرعب والإجرام في كل مكان. اعذروني إن تحدثت كثيرا عن سوريا، فأنا بنت تلك البلد المجروحة، تلك البلد التي تعاني، وتلك البلد التي لا يسمع صوت الشعب فيها ومطالبه في الحرية والكرامة. ولذلك ومن مصلحتنا جميعا كشعوب في المنطقة وكمطالبين بالحرية والديمقراطية في العالم أن نتحد لمواجهة هذا النظام المجرم في إيران ومشروعه، وأن أي مصالحة أو أي تهدئة مع هذا النظام المجرم في إيران هو هروب للأمام، وسيكلفنا جميعا المزيد من القتل والدم والتغيير الديمغرافي والطائفية والخراب. اليوم لا بد أن نقف احتراما أمام الحراك الشعبي في إيران الرافض لسياسات نظام الملالي، وعلى رأس هذا الحراك السيدات الإيرانيات العظيمات التي كنا في بداية الرافضين لإجرام الملالي ودفعنا ثمنا غاليا في سبيل الحرية والديمقراطية. لدي ثقة كبيرة أن هذه الأنظمة المجرمة إلى زوال، والبقاء دوما لإرادة الشعوب. ولدي أمل بأننا سنحتفل قريبا في طهران بسقوط نظام الملالي في ظل وجود حكم رشيد ديمقراطي يحترم حقوق الإنسان وحريته ويكون عامل سلام واستقرار في المنطقة والعالم، وهذا المشروع الذي يحمله مجلس المقاومة الإيرانية والسيدة مريم رجوي. تحية إكرام لكل الشهداء في إيران، في سوريا، في اليمن، في العراق، الذين ضحوا بأنفسهم في سبيل الحرية والديمقراطية. ختاماً أقول للأنظمة المجرمة بحق الشعوب، نظام الملالي في إيران، نظام الأسد في سوريا، وكل الأنظمة التي تقتل شعوبها حين تخرج إلى الشوارع وتطالب بالحرية والديمقراطية: أتظن أنك بعدما أحرقتني ورقصت كالشيطان فوق رفاتي وتركتني للذاريات تذرني كحلاً لعين الشمس في الفلوات، أتظن أنك قد طمست هويتي ومحوت تاريخي ومعتقداتي عبثاً تحاول لا فناء لثائر، أنا كالقيامة كل يوم آتي. تحية لشهداء سوريا، تحية لشهداء إيران وكل العالم، وشكراً لكم جزيلاً على هذه الفرصة، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.